Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting of the Wareham School Committee to order. It is Thursday, September 5th. This meeting is being recorded by WCTV and audio recorded by Jamie Wixton. Would you please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Unfortunately, well, I'm going to start with some sad news. We learned recently of the passing of Bob White. And Bob served his country in the Army Reserves. He served the town of Wareham as a member of the Finance Committee, as chairman of the Veterans Committee, and as a longtime volunteer and then employee at Wareham Community Television. Bob recorded many of our meetings over the years. He was a true gentleman, a good man, and would be missed. Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is public participation. Is there anyone that wishes to address the committee this evening? Seeing no one, we will move on to good news. Who would like to share some good news? Joyce?
I guess I'll go back a couple of weeks now because last meeting we didn't have time. But I just want to say the opening. I was very fortunate to have been able to attend the opening day with all the staff, and then the opening the first day with the new staff, which are two of my favorite days to be able to come in and be a part of those days. It's so exciting. It seems very exciting for all of you, and everyone's happy to be there. And so I just want to say I thought it went really well, and I appreciate the opportunity to be there.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. We're going to move on. I'm going to jump an agenda item up. Minutes of the meeting we will vote on at our next meeting. I'm going to move up the superintendent goals discussion right now, and we have in our packet the goals that the superintendent has presented to us. We had this discussion last week with a few suggestions made. I don't know if Dr. DeAndrea, you wanted to update on anything?
I made the revisions. April had made some suggestions. I made those revisions. I didn't merge goal 4 and 5 together. That's an oversight, but it is one goal. So other than that, everything's the same.
So is there any further discussion or more questions or clarification that anyone needs on any of these goals? Jeff?
What are the implications for the budget? Because what I'm looking at says funding FY26 LEA budget for the evaluation goal. And I just wondered what I'm missing.
Hold on a second. Let me pull it up.
Here, I have an extra copy, Matt.
I couldn't. Which, so you mean the last goal?
Well, actually, they weren't, they're one goal, but as April said, we merged them into.
Right, so funding FY26 LEA budget?
Yeah, I mean, it's a minor detail, but I wondered what the.
I just put that there in case that there might be some budgetary impact. It would have to be budgeted for. I don't anticipate that there will be.
Okay, couldn't figure out why there would be either,
Right.
but, okay.
But if there was, we would have to just budget for it.
Okay, but this is a 24-25 goal, so to have it related to the FY26 budget also seems a little bit surprising.
Well, if we were to make any changes during this school year that did have a budgetary impact, it would be budgeted for next year, for the FY26.
So if we made changes this year, we would absorb it in the 25 budget and make changes in the 26 budget. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right, but I don't anticipate there being any budgetary impact.
Okay. that's really all I wanted to hear, because I couldn't think of it, and if you can't think of it, then that's a good sign. Okay.
Any other questions? April?
Well, similarly, it mentions, especially with moving or developing the early education, which would require classroom renovations and adding bathroom, and that has LEA budget implications. Do you have like a cost estimate of what that would entail to do for that program, to do that sort of renovation, to add a preschool appropriate bathroom to a classroom for that program, and where in the budget? Like I said, my concern last meeting when this was presented was, the constraints we had on the budget for this year, the positions we've had to eliminate for this, and now we're trying to find room in a budget to create a new program after we've lost some, great positions and employees. So I'm just curious what that implication is going to be and how that would be. Is that something is there grant funding? Has that been looked into? Is that part of this being a 2-year goal? Is part of that looking at grant funding for such a program? Because that's not listed.
Absolutely will look for grant funding, any assistance that we can get. I put as a funding option school choice if we were going to make renovations to a classroom this year, which is what we would have to do. I have spoken to our plumber, and we're looking at options at the high school. We have to look at where there is water running into certain classrooms, and if we can find a spot that has that would be less expensive than one in which we have to, run a pipe to. So I don't have a number yet.
When you say school choice, are you meaning accepting students specifically for that type of
No,
program?
school choice.
For the preschool?
No, the school choice money that we have, that we receive on a yearly basis, we could look to that as a funding source to pay for the renovations.
So the tuitions we get from school choice, students that choose to come here, or we get their tuitions from other towns. So again, this being a high school program, Scott has mentioned that due to space and classroom sizes and the way that their schedule is, that the high school doesn't really have school choice, or the school choice budget's just district-wide and not school-specific for spending?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
I still have my concern, just again, with the timing of implementing a new program with the layoff situation and the budget constraints. I don't discount that it's a great idea. I just think that, again, I'm just putting it on record that I think that the timing of it is not in good taste, in my opinion, but I do think it is a good, as long as I would like to see underfunding added, grant applications added to the possibility of funding as on the goal.
I'm happy to add that. We definitely will look for that
And
as
with
a
the
possibility.
EMT one as well, because I'm pretty sure
Sure.
there might be anything for that, because I would rather see any other possibility than our already tight LEA budget if possible. So that's all I have for those.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the goals as presented?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you. All right, next up, we have the CPAC update. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
Hello.
Thank you for last week with
great.
the recognizing the track team. That was really cool.
No,
So
they were awesome.
we appreciate it very much. A lot less people here today.
Love it when people are here, though, just.
Right. We tried to bring as many people. So really quick, the last meeting that we had, we ended the year in June with just kind of like a caregiver meeting. And so we had five 5 people in attendance. It was really nice that we were able, Bonnie LaSorsa set us up that 2 of us were in person in, I believe, maybe a conference room in the middle school, or central office in that building. So 2 of us were in person, and then 3 people were able to Zoom in. And it was just it was just more of a discussion around specific questions family members had around, some services and special ed in Wareham. So in thinking about the planning for this year, last year we really did a minimum of maybe 3 or 4 Zoom presentations. How we've kind of planned it out for this year is we'll probably 4 times throughout the year, 4 months, we'll have like kind of a caregiver meeting to just, for caregivers among all of us. Melissa Fay won't attend those meetings, just to kind of talk, get some feedback, hear what's going on, see, again, help in planning events. And then already I've asked Melissa to schedule dates for the basic rights presentation, which we're hoping for mid-October, and then some kind of Zoom mental health fair like we ran last year in December. So the first definite meeting will be a caregiver meeting. We'd like to schedule it for Thursday, October 3rd. I have not asked for any building request or anything like that, so that'll be my next thing. So just hopeful that we can get as many people attending as possible and can kind of just get some good information out. That always seems to be the theme of these meetings with family members, is just lots of questions and wanting to make sure they're able to advocate for their kids. That's all I got.
So one of the superintendent's goals
Yeah.
relates to putting an additional, I think that's the correct term, integrated preschool classroom in the high school.
Okay.
Do you have an opinion on that?
What's the rationale for putting it at the high school, I guess? My experience as an educator is in a high school. And so the only situation where I've worked, there was a daycare available in a high school I worked in for more the teachers that worked there, but no preschool program. So I'm not really familiar with.
And I'm sure that the superintendent will correct me if I get any of this wrong, but, well, he's not sure he's going to correct me. Okay. But part of it is going to relate to involving the high school students with the program itself, in terms of course of studies that are applicable to people who want to go into this as a career, for example. So I think that's part of the rationale. It's not a unique thing to do, apparently. It was to me, but the superintendent tells me that it's actually pretty popular from a district perspective to have the oldest students interacting with the youngest students and getting the synergies associated with that interaction.
It sounds, I think I'm talking more from like my professional experience than personal experience. It sounds like on the surface, a really great opportunity for students. It's a career pathway. When we talk about college and career and things like that, it's an opportunity for experience with special education students, with typical peers, and kind of that and it just fosters some inclusiveness too, which could be, I'm sure there are pros and cons to it, but it sounds like a neat opportunity and something cool to explore.
My second question, totally different.
Okay.
My wife works with someone who has a child with an IEP in the Wareham Public School District. She is thrilled with the services that her child is getting. And I wondered, is it a broad spectrum? You've got the parents that are thrilled, and you've got the parents that are not thrilled, and then you've got people in the middle, or are people generally very happy with the services they're getting, to your knowledge?
I don't think I could speak for the entire district. And so I think there are some families whose students have maybe some significant needs that they're with a nice cohort of kids throughout their whole lives. they have fewer teachers and the communication is better. So there might be situations where the higher need of student, they're just with more familiar people all the time, and that might feel really nice and comfortable. I wonder, I just think that it's just a differing of it. I think I don't think everybody is happy, everybody's in the middle, or everybody's really frustrated with services. I think it depends. What I don't know and what I'd be interested is the level of need of student and then the level of satisfaction from the family. If that matters, I don't know.
And I
don't
appreciate the
know.
fact that you can't and
Yeah.
won't speak for every
Yeah.
parent. I just wondered if you had an opinion. I was obviously very happy to hear that she was thrilled with the services she was getting, but for privacy reasons as well as other reasons, you know, I don't really want to go any further to talk about this particular child. No problem. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure.
Joyce?
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for taking this role on again this year. You know, you as an educator and a parent, you know, you have a lot to offer in this role. So thanks for taking your time to
Sure.
do this.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Joyce speaks for a lot of us when she says that. Brennan?
To speak on Jeff's point, as another parent with a child with an IEP who's just started his senior year, we have never had anything other than the most remarkable experience dealing with getting the IEP, enacting it. Far more often than not, they have come to us and say, hey, you might want to consider getting your son this service, than us having to go and being like, does my son need this? Should my son get this? Or ever having to fight to get him a service. It's never been anything we have ever asked for, we have gotten. And like I said, more often than not, we are told, hey, this is available, you should take advantage of it. Where things we didn't even know we could get, we've gotten. So again, he's starting his senior year, and I have nothing but good things to say about the entire IEP special needs program. It's part of the reason why I joined the school committee, why I ran, because I think they've done just such an amazing job. And again, other families I've talked to, I've never gotten really a negative response from people who have had a student with an IEP. There's been other issues with maybe getting it and not qualifying for it or whatever, but as far as once it's, been achieved, nothing but top-notch service.
And I think it's important, I feel like many times in any CPAC meeting that I've been to, he's in 10th grade now, so it's been 16 years of going to meetings. I think I feel like a lot of parents that are involved, are there for frustration. So it's also good to have positive experience. The meetings are for everybody. It's not just oh, I'm really frustrated and I need help. We need people that have had successful situations too to come and kind of speak to that too. So kind of to the public, right? Everybody come and just be a part of it.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Kristen Flynn's Director of Finance report for June, July, August, and student activities accounts, which we will vote on this evening. Kristen?
Good evening. In your packet, you have the financial reports for June, for July, and August, and I can briefly go over those and take some questions. I also included a summary of the revolving funds as well. So we'll start with June, the year end. So the budget process for FY24 started in October of 2022. So 18 months prior, we were predicting where we were going to land at the end of the budget. So we did have some significant changes during the budget, as we always do. We were relying heavily on ESSER, so it was a transitioning out of ESSER, and we also had a lot of salary changes as well, which resulted in a salary surplus this year. So some years you have that, some years you have quite the opposite. The best thing that you can do is just monitor it, as frequently as possible, which we have done. So just for an example, for the in FY24, we had almost 24. We had 18 resignations, retirements, and leaves of absence that resulted in a salary surplus. And also, we had some positions that we had budgeted for, but we had not filled in anticipation of the FY25 budget. So there was approximately 6 of those positions that either were, 2 was for almost the entire school year, and a few were about 6 months or 8 months. So there was some salary surplus there, so you'll see that. Additionally, one of the other large accounts that we watch all the time is out-of-district tuitions. That's very volatile all the time. It's changing quite frequently. And so in FY24, and I know I spoke of it at times throughout the year, we had 11 students who at one time or another, they were not in their placement, that we had budgeted for their placement, but they had moved out or left their placement or were getting home tutoring or just otherwise not, not on our rolls. So some of the students left as early as July of '23, some were October, some were February, March, and April, and those were a mixture of private and collaborative placements. So with that, we were able to move some of the costs out of circuit breaker and put it in the LEA budget to preserve circuit breaker to help us in years to come. We can carry it over 1 year, so that was planned for in the '25 budget. And we also were able to prepay, which the law allows and is a recommended practice if you can prepay private and collaborative tuition. So we were able to prepay 3 months of one private tuition and the first 3/4 of a collaborative tuition. So we used those funds to set us up a little bit better for FY25, with all of the layoffs and the budget deficit that we had and ending ESSER. We also was able to preserve ESSER for the first 3 months of the fiscal year because ESSER you have to spend by September 30th. So those staff members that were on ESSER that worked during the summertime, we kept them, we put them on ESSER in the summer and that we took into account in the FY25 budget. So there were a lot of changes from when we had first budgeted 18 months ago. But like I said, it's nothing unusual. You always do have resignations, retirements, leave of absences. Some of them are paid, partially unpaid, totally unpaid. So the best thing to know is just have that information and work closely together, which we do, and be aware and know where you have your funds. So I do have that for June 30th. July and August, we're really just starting the fiscal year, of course. So what we're doing in July and August is we're mostly purchasing, we're paying our people that work in the summer, we're purchasing our supplies, our licenses, our curriculum, any contract services that are year-round for facilities and maintenance, such as fire alarms, building alarms, and we're projecting out our utilities, encumbering our recurring costs for the year, so that way we know that money has been set aside for things that we know we're going to have to spend it. Things that we encumber early in the year, we do take a look throughout the year to see how we're doing, whether we have to adjust it up or down, and know where our funds are. So there's really not too much happening in July and August other than, just those, mostly just purchasing and ordering our supplies and getting set up for the school year. So does anyone have any questions on the budgets?
Joyce?
I just have a question about out-of-district placements. So clearly, we pay for students who go to those out-of-district schools. Do we pay per student, or do we pay to have slots open for Wareham students?
Both. It's mostly per student. The only place that we pay for slots is at Cape Cod Collaborative. They have what's called a committed slot for one of their programs. And usually around the springtime of the year before, the special ed department will figure out how many slots that they want for that program at Cape Cod Collaborative and commit to that. Mm-hmm. So we have done that in the past. This year we committed to only 2 slots because we found, that we were finding at times that we were not able to fill some of the slots, and so we figured it'd be better to commit to fewer than more. And there is a cost difference. It's not too much, but you do get a little bit of a break when you commit to these slots. And I know that, that's something that when I attend the Cape Cod Collaborative meetings, they have a business managers roundtable for the Cape, and they nicely invite Wareham to it. So they'll have us come. And that is one of the topics of discussion, whether or not that program, that opportunity is going to continue or if it will change, because it is difficult, especially in a volatile population. If you think that you're going to have 5 students and then it doesn't pan out and you've committed to that, and now what? So that's one of the reasons why we backed off on them as well. So, but most all other out-of-district tuitions are per student. So they'll have a daily rate for the number of days, and then any related services that might not be included in the tuition.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chef?
So following up on that, is there any risk, let's say you commit to 2, and then you end up needing 4. Apparently, there's a small cost difference, but is there also a risk that they literally don't have any room?
There could be, yes.
Has that ever happened?
There could be. Sometimes I don't know that it's happened because we've really backed off for the first time this year, that since I've been here. But more of the trouble is sometimes not having the student accepted by the placement, by the collaborative, whether or not they're not, that the collaborative feels they can't meet their specific needs. They may not have the proper staffing, and that is one of the reasons why they do like to have the committed slots, because that's how they plan their staffing and their revenues at the collaborative. So I can understand both sides. It's a little bit of a risk for both. But ultimately, they want you, of course, to honor that commitment, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So.
Totally different subject. I noticed for June 30th report that we were 99%, which sounds great, but simple math said that means we didn't spend about $300,000.
Correct.
So where did that $300,000 go?
So by law, that has to revert to the town's general fund when you don't spend it.
So we
yes.
did give the town back about $300,000.
Correct.
I'm sure they were happy to have it. I also noticed in the August report that now I'm blanking on the term, not the accrual, but you use a different term. The encumbered.
Encumbrance,
Sorry.
correct, yes.
The encumbered was almost 10% of the total budget. That's a really big number. Is encumbering a science or an art?
I would say, if I could say both, it is both. So you do your best based on the past. So we'll encumber the utilities, and because we want to make sure that, when we're looking at that report, we don't see that we have more money available, knowing that every month we've got a big bill at the elementary school for $30,000 a month, lesser at the high school and the middle school. So you'll see that big encumbrance number in August because we've encumbered all of our utilities. We've also encumbered the out-of-district tuitions that we have contracts for already. So so that'll keep growing in the out-of-district tuition line. And then we'll encumber a lot of the supplies that the schools are purchasing to start the school year, whether it be general school supplies, curriculum, any maintenance and custodial supplies. So that is, I guess that part's a science because
So how much do these good people who are in our audience tonight impact the encumbrance? In other words, do you ask them, what do you want encumbered, or do you basically do it on your own based on past experience?
So for their accounts that I call discretionary accounts, their supply accounts, their building contract services accounts, anything that's not salaries or utilities, to make it simple, they will do requisitions for what they need. So whatever their process is, they might have a teacher or a lead teacher doing the ordering for their department, coming through the principals, reviewing reviewing it, approving it, then it comes to my office. So they're doing their encumbrances for their supplies and services that aren't utilities or salaries.
Does your experience say that having 10% of the budget encumbered is unusual?
I didn't used to encumber utilities.
What changed your mind?
Well, when I came here, that's how it was done, so I didn't change it. And I think that it is a, there's one way of looking at it. We could not encumber it and do a purchase order every month for the monthly bill. So that's, you're doing a purchase order, 12 times instead of once. So, I mean, there's a little additional work with that. And you can say in your head, I'm not going to spend that money because I need it for the electric bill and the heat and the gas or the water. But so it's sort of the same thing, right? So I either know in my head not to spend the money, or I see it on the paper not to spend the money.
The term expended, that's cash out the door, correct?
Yes.
So is a subset of encumbered column accruals? Because there are certain things you've received, you haven't paid for, so that doesn't belong in the, or does it?
It does. So that is in the encumbered column. So everything
then-
stays in the encumbered column.
okay, that's to me an
correct.
accrual.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that stays in the encumbered column until the invoice is processed. So now
That's a
here-
normal accrual, right?
So with our system here, with the Vadar system, unfortunately, it stays there a little bit longer because we're paying bills approximately 10 to 15 days before the warrant. Like when you sign the warrant, you'll see that today's warrant was for September 19th. So even though we've paid those encumbrances, I consider that money spent. It's not going to reflect in the reports for several weeks.
Okay.
So we're sort of playing catch-up all the time. So that makes it a little bit difficult, especially toward the end of the year.
Finally, I'm always trying to look at that line item budget and trying to figure out what I should be worried about. And I try to come up with a formula that says, well, if it's a big part of the budget and we've already spent 50% of it, maybe I should be worried about it. But even including encumbrances. But I never get comfortable that my own formula is worth anything. So then I end up asking you the following question. Should we be, even after 2 months, are you worried about anything?
Right now, not yet. Today was our first payroll.
Reserve the right to get worried, right?
Yes, I do. Today was the first payroll for the instruction staff, for all of our staff. So once we have a few more payrolls under our belt, we can see, because salaries, if you wanted to know what line items I'm always worried about, salaries, because they're such a large portion of the budget, and they are affected by circumstances outside of our control and sometimes inside our control. But there's always changes from what you budgeted for. If someone retires, someone else comes in at a higher or lower level salary. So that can, you multiply that across 10 people times $20,000, that can add up very quickly, depending where they are in the scale, one way or the other. So last year we saw that we were on the good side of it, so to speak. 2 years ago, when we had that salary deficit, that was very difficult and very, very scary. Another account, so when I look at the salaries, I'll look at whether it's a teaching position and where we are in relation to teachers are paid over, over the 10 months. So you might see the teaching lines right now not expended at all, obviously. But you're going to see the year-round staff as long as it's in relation to how far we are into the year. So that's, for a quick peek, I'll look at that. Same thing with utilities. I track it a little differently. I look to see where we are as a proportion of what we've paid versus what we have to go, looking at the previous year, just kind of looking at it that way. So I use various ways to see where we're at. Similarly with the out-of-district tuition, sometimes there's just no way of knowing other than seeing where you are, and it's helpful in that regard to have encumbered all of your out-of-district tuition so that you know, right now, I've got everybody that I'm going to pay for in the budget accounted for. And so then we can see, okay, what do we have left in case someone else comes in, someone moves out, we close the encumbrance. So it really depends on the line item. The supplies are a little bit easier because, once you're out of supply money, that's it. You don't buy anymore, or if you something you need to find the money in another line item and request a transfer.
So are you going to separately talk about revolvers and student activity accounts?
Yes.
Then I'll save my questions for that. Thank you.
All right.
So I did include the revolving funds as of June 30th, I believe. And so you have these are all of the school revolving funds, and what our beginning balance was, our revenue, our expended, and the ending balance. So one of the ones that I would talk about is transportation, because we ended with a balance of $285,000 in the transportation revolving. So we know that we're using $100,000 of that to balance the FY25 budget. So the revenue from that, it looks like a lot, and for most of the revenue is from our McKinney-Vento reimbursements. So we received approximately $160,000 that we recorded from McKinney-Vento reimbursement, and we also recorded another $50,000 in the emergency shelter transportation reimbursement. So that's why we had more money coming in. So it was reimbursements for students that we transported to other districts, other towns. And we'll be using that. So when we do have some transportation for students going, to other towns, we'll use that transportation revolving to pay for that. So that's that one. The athletics, the receipts are the gate receipts. We try to pay for everything as much as possible out of the local budget, but some things we do spend out of the athletics revolving. A lot of times it might be a late bill that we received, or if we've expended the athletics account. So that's that one. I'll jump up a little bit. School property. So that's the money that we take in when our facilities are rented. Generally, that will cover the cost of the custodian, and we can use that fund to make improvements to the school properties. Another one is driver's ed. Of course, those are the driver's ed receipts that we receive, and the expenses are fuel and maintenance on the cars, and of course the instructors' salaries. I know that the driver's ed, we're looking to replace a car in the future, so we've in the very early stages of that, and the funds from the driver's ed revolving fund will go to purchase the car. School choice that we talked about, so that's funds that we get from the students that attend school in Wareham that do not live in Wareham, and it's also students that come and attend our night school. The primary expenditures for school choice are to fund the night school program. So you'll see that, and then also sometimes that there's costs like that are outside of the budget, or some invoices that we might receive after the fiscal year closes that we'll have to use for that. I will say that over FY24, I believe our revenue was approximately $40,000 a month, but then we didn't get a payment in June because there was an adjustment. And Melissa, Faye, and I were on a call with Desi today, working on our school choice funds, and there is going to be an adjustment because what Desi had predicted, once we did the school choice increment form that we have to fill out, I believe it's twice a year, Melissa will work on that for the special education students. Desi had predicted higher and gave us more funds than and some of those funds should go to other districts. So they did let me know today that they've already cut the school choice for 25. I believe it's about $30,000 a month, and they're going to decrease it another 25. So we won't be getting as much school choice revenue, but you can see that we've been able to build it up over the past year or so. So I'm not too concerned about that. The PASS is the night school. That's a small revolving fund preschool is the tuition that the model students pay to come to preschool. We vote on the tuition every year, and that goes to fund a salary, and also we needed to furnish one of the classrooms at the elementary school this year, so we used a combination of preschool revolving, a very small preschool grant that we have, and another special education grant to fund that. So this year we used it for that. So that's good to have to fund some expenses for the preschool. The other three don't have too much, have no activity, so they're just there. And we do have, I talked about the transportation money that came into the transportation revolving funds from our McKinney-Vento reimbursement and the emergency shelter reimbursement. We also had, and we talked about it over last year, was reimbursement for payments for the students that are living in the shelters, attending schools in Wareham. So we received 3 payments over the course of the last fiscal year, and those carry forward up to 1 year. And it's not a revolving fund. The state says you put it in a grant, but it's not something that I just wanted to update the school committee on the funds that we received for that as well. So we received for the emergency shelter funds in FY24 to be used in FY25 about $158,000. So that will go to help pay for some of our ELL expenses, including salaries. So I wanted to make that known as well. And one more thing about the transportation revolving, in addition to those reimbursements, we're also transporting students in neighboring towns to their placements. If we're going somewhere and we can pick up students in other towns and bring them on our vehicles, it helps defray the cost. So right now, in FY24, we were bringing students from Bourne, Plymouth, Old Rochester, and Dennis Yarmouth Public Schools, and we bill them and they reimburse us for their students. So that's another source of revenue for our transportation department. And finally, even though it's not a revolving fund, I do like to include circuit breaker. So you can see I talked earlier about how we switched expenses out of circuit breaker to the local budget to build up circuit breaker. The Department of Revenue recommends that you have 1 year's, you can carry forward up to 1 year of circuit breaker expenses. So it's recommended that you get into the habit of not spending what you receive that year and then using it toward your budget in the next year.
We used to do that all the time, though.
Right. So over the past couple of years, when I first started, the circuit breaker balance was down to about 300,000, and that is very low for a district with the needs that we have here, because one student could come in and just take that. So it would take that away. So over the course, we've tried to build it up, and because we had so many placement changes and students not in placements, we were able to build up circuit breaker and use it to help us a little bit more than it does with the local budget. And so that will be there for next year as well. So, we're getting there. We're getting there in that regard. So that is what I have for the revolving funds and those other new funds and circuit breaker.
Joyce?
I just want to go back to what you said about transporting students from other towns, which I think is a great idea. Do we also have students in Wareham that are transported by other districts?
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't think so. I'm trying to think if I've seen invoices come through to pay another district. I do not believe that we do. I mean, we're fortunate in that we have a lot of, we run our own buses and have our own equipment. Some of these towns may or may not, or they may just have a few special ed vans, so they might not have that same, opportunity to be able to go into other towns and pick up kids along the way.
But, well, regardless, it's still, like you said, a great opportunity.
It is.
And what other towns charge each other is, I'm going to guess, less than what a private company
Oh,
might charge.
absolutely,
Yeah, so-
absolutely. So it's beneficial to both towns. I mean, I know of one specifically where my husband is the business manager in Dennis Yarmouth. He said, we're picking up a student who's living in Wareham, bringing that student to Dennis Yarmouth High School at $400 a day. So I said, well, where's your high school? Is it near the Cape Cod Collaborative? Because we're running a bus there. He said it is. So, I asked Marie if she had room for one more student, and we're transporting that student for less than half the cost. So it benefits both districts. And it works well because Marie has a good relationship with her counterparts in other districts. And I have good relationships with other business managers. So we can, I talked with the Carver business manager, the Plymouth business manager at our conference about trying to get together. It doesn't always work because sometimes the times don't work.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing is the time of the program and when the kids have to get there and how far the ride is. So, where we can, where the times work and we have space, I think it's beneficial for all of us. It helps keep our costs down,
Right.
and it helps with the other districts because some of the van companies are charging upwards of $200, $300, $400 a day.
All right, thank you.
Jeff?
I just want to second what you said. Having our own transportation department gives us so much more flexibility. It has its headaches, but I think it's undoubtedly worth it from a cost perspective and a flexibility perspective. So with the exception of transportation, where you make the note, you've got 100,000 allocated to the non-net budget, I assume that means, not the LEA
Correct.
budget, right?
Yes, correct. Mhm.
Yes. So with the exception of that, none of these monies that are listed under, as of 6/30/24, are scheduled to be used for the LEA budget this year?
Preschool, because we'll be charging a preschool teacher. So I didn't put that, so I should have put the same note that we're charging a preschool salary, so approximately 100,000 for preschool. So that, but we anticipate that we'll take in almost as much and actually probably just about that amount, and then that amount will go out for the preschool salary.
Okay, so it's a wash in terms of in and out?
It, pretty much.
So the only thing missing is the note, so to speak?
Right,
Okay.
exactly. And same thing with ROTC. You'll see that has a very low balance at the end of June, because that it comes in and it goes out, so it's pretty much a wash.
Okay. Should there be a correlation between what I see on the cherry sheet, and I'm talking about school choice specifically, what I see on the cherry sheet and what I see under revenue? And the reason I ask that is because the revenue, I don't think they call it revenue, but the plus for, on the cherry sheet for school choice for 2024, okay, meaning the numbers that you're showing. By the way, it was unusual. The governor, the Senate, the House all said 365,000 plus, and then all of a sudden, when it got to the conference committee, they increased it by 120,000. I have no idea why that would occur. It's really unusual. But the bottom line is that that number on the cherry sheet for school choice was 485,000. So my question is, why is it 449 on your schedule and 485,000 on the cherry sheet?
Right, I'm guessing the difference is that June payment that we did not get. So it was about $40,000 that we did not receive in June. And when I followed up with Desi about that just this summer, because I kept waiting for the June payment to come in of school choice, and this happened 2 years ago when I first came here that we didn't get it. So I suspected it was the same thing. I'm not entirely sure, but what Desi told me is that when they recalculated, they saw that they had overpaid us during the course of fiscal '24. So that's why they backed off on the June payment.
Except that
I'm not
the
sure.
legislature authorized, appropriated, to use their term, $485,000, and DESI can countermand that?
I'm not sure how it works from what's appropriated to what DESI, releases. That part, I'm not entirely sure, but I can tell you that that 449 was less the June payment, so I did expect to get another 40,000, and when
And
we
still
didn't.
do?
No, because once I believe, and again, this is not an area that I have a lot of expertise in, when we filed the school choice reports, when we say, here are the kids, that it just did not add up to what DESI had predicted. And based on my conversation today with two folks from DESI, they mentioned, they specifically said, oh, it's not what we predicted, so we have to back off. And in fact, I will give one specific example. We had a student who was living in Falmouth and still lives in Falmouth that was coming into Wareham High School. And the student required specialized transportation. So 2 years ago, we were sending the van and paying for it. And in terms of all this, it was discovered through conversation with DESI that the transportation is the responsibility of Falmouth. So we had a choice in speaking with DESI. We could either build Falmouth to get it back, or we could do it through school choice, and that's what the DESI person recommended, to do it through school choice. So in that regard, Falmouth's school choice was reduced, and they reduced it over the course of a year, so that money would come back to us to reimburse us. So it's a little bit of,
I hear you. and-
So the reverse has now happened. We don't include that student in our costs when we say how much each child costs, because Falmouth is paying that transportation. So 2 years ago, that student cost us, I think it was almost $60,000 or $70,000 in transportation. So DESI expected to see that again this year, and when they didn't, that affected their calculation. So perhaps that has something to do with it too.
There is no rush, and don't make a special call, but the next time you're talking to your DESI people, I'd love to know the difference between what's appropriated and what's actually received. And do they have the discretion to change a legislative appropriation? Just for my own enlightenment. Thank you.
You're
Well
welcome.
said, Mr. Chair.
All right, so we'll now look at student activities accounts.
Okay, so I do have the student activities report. We do need to take a vote on 2 items. So the first thing is to approve the maximum balances annually in the account. So you have that on the cover sheet. You can see that the high school, the maximum balance is $50,000. The Wareham Middle School, the maximum balance is $30,000. Elementary school is $10,000. And past night school is $5,000. And also on that sheet, you have the authorized signers of the checking and savings account, and I noted that the dates that we most recently bonded the principals. By law, the principals are in charge of their student activity accounts, and so they're the ones that are on the checking account as signers. So we do need a vote for the maximum balances. And then we also need a vote to approve each activity. So I don't know how you want to take that out, but also in the packet is all of the activities for each school and their balance as of July 31st in each one. And there are some inactive and some new accounts that are listed on those sheets as well, and that is on there.
So I would suggest we take up first the maximum balance. Right, a motion to approve,
Seconded.
second. We'll just go with all in favor?
Can I just ask a quick
oh,
question?
go ahead.
Are those the same as they are now? There's no change being made?
There's no change.
Okay.
Nope, there's
All
no
right,
change.
sorry.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. And then next, the authorized signers. Any questions on that?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
All right. Nope. Go ahead.
That's it on the student activity accounts?
I believe those are the
I
only
thought
things that
there was a recommendation to eliminate 2 accounts.
there is.
Does that require approval?
No, the policy states that, let me flip to it.
Because I did have, even if it doesn't require approval, I had a question related
Right.
to it.
So it says, any student activity inactive and for which there has been no receipts or disbursements recorded shall require the following actions in order to be closed. Written notification by the advisor or student officer to the school principal, and I believe we do have that, it should have been included, or otherwise, or other authorized administrator that the activity will cease to be a viable account. If an advisor or student officer is not available, such discontinuance shall be by vote of the school committee.
Because it says right on the sheet, request for school committee to approve.
Okay, so,
If that's beyond what's necessary, then we don't need to approve. But I still had a question about it.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I noticed Jeff Egger's sad email related to the extraordinary increase in the costs associated with Nature's Classroom. Do you share his sadness that we can no longer afford it? And what would it cost per student if we did it?
I don't know the final cost, but I think we were upward over $600. The cost of the,
What, a day or something?
no, it's the week, so we went.
It's a whole week?
Yeah, we went for the week, but the transportation costs on the buses, and it just became too much. We also wanted to change the timing of it, and we were hoping to get like in June, because we thought that would be a perfect time, but there was no chance of doing that. So it just became, COVID derailed us with Nature's Classroom, and then after COVID, we just couldn't make it happen. It was a stretch for like $300. I mean, we were taking probably 75% of the class, and it just, with the fundraising that's happened now with youth sports and cheerleading, and it's just too much.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I was sad to see it, but I
Yeah,
get it.
I'm sad too.
The other question I had, and isn't specifically middle school related, but that balance of almost $9,000 is being shifted to the, quote, general account.
Yeah.
And how the general account is used is a little fuzzy.
Well, my intention of using it is we're going to go on a trip at the end of the year for the school.
So it's your general account?
It's the general
Or is it-
account for the middle school.
Oh,
Yes, it's a middle school general account.
maybe I didn't realize
believe.
that.
yes, it is. It's a middle school general account, that's
Okay,
correct.
I don't think it says that, but fine, okay. So you've got plans for it, because this is student money, and I didn't want it to go someplace that
No,
wasn't
it's going to go directly to the kids.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right. Thank you. We're going to have the principal reports. We're going to have Bethany come up first, please.
Good evening, school committee. Thank you for having us here tonight. For tonight's presentation, I'm going to talk about our opening days and how wonderful it was. Very, very smooth opening for grades 1 through 4. Of course, we accept the kindergartners. I always say it's like the British are coming. The kindergartners are coming. The kindergartners are coming on Monday. We will be accepting 168 kindergartners to our school, along with 75 preschoolers, which is the highest amount of preschoolers we've had to open. And again, preschool is open enrollment throughout the year, so we have to navigate as that open enrollment continues. So when we speak about preschool, it's a very lucrative place to be. People want to be in our preschool program, and I think that extending it is going to be advantageous to Wareham Public Schools. And we had open house last night. And it was, I thought I was giving out Taylor Swift concert tickets. It was a packed place. Many of the families that were there last night, I saw her again at Miss Cote's open house presentation tonight. So it was wonderful. All of the community came out. Almost every family. I collected the sign-in sheets today from the staff, and it was remarkable. It was just... It's great to see families with my large school. I have siblings, so the families can come and visit the grade 1 teacher and the grade 4 teacher. We're not separated any longer, so it's really great. It's just a wonderful, wonderful family event. Upcoming also, we have the dentist, the mobile dentist coming back. The dentist is coming back. We haven't had the dentist. We had it at Deacon's right by my copy machine. We didn't have the suite that we needed, but now we have an area right in the nurse's office where the dentist will be coming back into Wareham Elementary School. So I'm so glad to see that the nurses have brought back that program. Also new to Wareham Elementary this year, I don't know if you saw our new newsletter, but I did tackle the S'mores online newsletter along, and it's been very good, and it's very, very exciting. So it's through Canva, and it's online, and it shows us how many views we've received. So I can see 1,693 times the newsletter has been read. So that's amazing. I also did a poll. It allows you to do a poll and ask parents questions. The question I asked on the poll was, does your child need before school care? And we received 19 yeses and 4 nos. So now we have some numbers if we want to open up before school time, which we're talking about doing. So it's a great, great feature. I'm very excited to use it. I'm playing with it, but it's been exciting. So that's what's happening at Wareham Elementary. In your packets, I have shown you a printout of the newsletter, welcoming some of our new staff as well, but you can see it online, as well as some of our upcoming events. I'll take questions at this time.
We'll go right down the road. Yeah, Joyce?
Oh, I don't know if I have any questions, but I just want to say thank you for taking on that newsletter challenge, and I did see it online, and it looks great, and I'm really, 1,600 views, I mean, that's great. So,
Yeah.
see, people are looking at the website. They do. Or how does it get to?
It goes right on. Well, I sent it to myself first just to make sure I wasn't making a huge boo-boo. I sent it to Dr. DeAndrea. I sent it to a few, Miss Kavicki at the high school, just to check it out. But I checked it on my phone, and it comes up beautifully right on the phone. I don't know if you saw that too, Kevin, but it comes right up right on the phone, so it's very, very accessible just through the link. So I was excited. I have some work to do and practice with it, but I'm excited to use it this year. And I think it's going to be really a great way just to continue to communicate with families. It's really bright and vibrant too, so it's exciting.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the list of dates.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
April?
I was just wondering, what was your total enrollment for this?
Right now, I have 913 students.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, it's remarkable, the exact number. It's just almost every class size is between 168 and 175. I'm within 7 students of each grade. I have 178 in one group in grade 2. Isn't that amazing? So, very, very close.
168 sounds low. I'm used to kindergarten being sometimes close to 200, maybe even 190 something.
No, traditionally, right, these past few years, one year, about 7, I think it was my first year, maybe 8 years ago, I had 201 students. Other than that, I've been between 165 and 180.
Oh, okay, 180.
Yep, 180. But we're still enrolling. My number went, yes, we enrolled, I believe, Ms. LaFrancois registered 5 kindergartners this week. So it's still we're actively enrolling.
Okay. Tell me how this mobile dentist works. And by that I mean, how does the parent request the mobile dentist see their child?
Yes.
Okay, so the request comes in. I assume there's a capacity issue perhaps, okay, but the child is seen by the dentist. Does the actual dentistry occur there?
Yes.
It-
The
In other
mobile,
words, it's not like a screening and then they go to a dentist's office. They actually get the dentistry at the school.
correct.
Wow.
The cleaning, the checkup, yes, the whole unit, the tools, the chair.
Does he have the capacity to do an x-ray, for example?
Yes, they have an x-ray machine that comes in. It's really remarkable.
How many years have we been doing this?
Many years, many years. And we just hadn't, we stopped it right before we left, before COVID, and now we're reinstating. Yeah,
That's fabulous.
isn't it? It's really great.
How many children does the dentist see?
We haven't done it since pre-COVID, so I'm remembering back to 2019. But I do recall, I'm thinking in my head, it was one student after the other, and he kept coming back and coming back and coming back. I think probably he made 8 to 10 visits to our school in those years.
And each-
Yeah.
So this visit, he's coming on the 16th. How many children will he see on the 16th?
I don't know, but I'd be happy for the nurses to get that number for you, just out of curiosity.
Next time you come.
I will. I'd be happy to
Yeah,
share
I
that
mean, I
information.
think it's a fabulous service.
Yes, it is.
But
It's
you're
really
saying this is the first time since COVID?
COVID.
So I have
So it's coming back.
I have a partial excuse for being oblivious. Okay.
Yes, yes. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so
Dr. Chandler.
much.
All right, next up, Jane Fondulis, the TAS
great.
program.
I should have asked you which. Does anybody pay for this?
That I don't know.
Sorry, Jane.
That's okay. Night school started Tuesday night. We typically do 2 days of registration, and we had to expand it to 4 afternoons of registrations. We had a lot of new students. Right now, we have 36 students enrolled, of which 7 are school choice. And we have 4 ninth graders, 17 10th graders, 7 11th graders, and right now we have 8 12th graders that will be on the list to graduate. That number will go up because a student right now that's considered a junior this semester can finish up their coursework next semester and graduate in June. So, and we're all 4 nights, and Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and tonight we've had perfect attendance, so it's been great.
How do these numbers compare with the usual year?
We're higher, and we're getting, we've had to cut the registration time off sooner than we typically do, just simply because we're limited with our space. And right now, some of our classroom sizes are higher than we typically will go. So we've had to cut off that. But going forward, what's interesting is I've received 2 phone calls this week from Plymouth schools and Middleborough. No, not Middleborough, Plymouth and Carver, asking about our program because they typically send their kids to the Middleborough evening program, and Middleborough's not taking any more out-of-district students. So I see next semester registrations increasing because they're now asking to want to send their kids to us.
But you say you have, but you say you have a capacity issue.
Well, because we only have so many classrooms at the high school to
Oh,
use.
I understand that, but if you get these calls next semester, what are you going to do?
Well, get some more rooms from Scott. Ask for more rooms from Scott.
Do you have?
Yep. But we've been trying to keep them contained, to not go past the gym area. But if it means a lot of school choice, we'll go past.
Yeah, and it's a very valuable service to the community.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's not, even the New Bedford is not doing what they used to do. So, we could see a real potential.
What do you see as sort of a maximum class size?
Well, our students come to us for various reasons. Anxiety, social and emotional, teen moms, all that. So you don't want to have a classroom of 25 because that's where they don't want to be. So we typically like to keep it between not going over 15. So if we had a rise in school choice, we could offer, say, English 9 2 nights a week rather than 1 night a week to accommodate the increase in students that needed English 9, as an example.
Thank you, sorry.
April?
So with us reclaiming the annex building, the pass had been in there at one point, correct? So do you think that once that is reclaimed, that during the day, that being the cooperative kind of school, and then pass relocating back to that building for evenings would make things a lot easier for you, like with this new enrollment and increase?
Yeah, I actually have had conversations with Dr. DeAndrea about that, because the past night school program is the Wareham Cooperative Alternative School. There is the day school model over at the high school, and then this is the night school model, but it's all under the umbrella of the co-op. And without the co-op, you wouldn't be able to have a night school program. And ideally, we would love to go over to the building where it used to be, because typically our students, it would be nice to, in the engineering class at night, not have to have them pack their stuff up, because it's not our classroom during the day. It'd be nice to have posters for our students about college and career readiness, and that, at making it their space, which is what it used to be. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Have a good
Thanks.
year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
I received a list of the order of principals presenting tonight, so Tracy, you drew the short straw. So, Mr. Palladino, you are up next.
Where'd you get that? Really?
She had, we don't know which time she was going to get back from her open house. So she was
All right, so I figured I'd try and stay in the same format. Obviously, we can't talk about attendance or staff attendance, but I want to stay with the same format with some good news. The gym floor was refinished at the high school over the summer. It looks great. The condition of the wood, once they stripped everything down, it looked brand new. It was amazing.
Befitting state champions.
I'm sorry?
Befitting state champions.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's great for basketball. Volleyball, I don't think they're so excited about it because it's very sticky and they like to slide on the floor. So they're taking one for the team this year. We'll get it back to our traditional November refinishing. We have a new fire alarm system that's really 21st century. It allows us to identify where the alarm is going off, specifically the exact location. With our old system, it would give us a general proximity of the area of the school. So it might say second floor back, which would encompass about 15 classrooms and probably about 200 feet of hallway. And you'd have to go around looking up for a sensor that was red. So this is exciting because it gets us to the concern right away versus having to try and figure it out as you go along. We have ordered new curtains for the auditorium. They'll be installed later this month. We have a new LCD projector that will be in place for town meeting, and WCTV has put in cameras that are permanently mounted, and it's really a state-of-the-art area now, so we're excited about that, and obviously we use that quite a bit during the school day as well. We reconfigured one of our special ed classrooms. It was formerly our cooking classroom, and our custodians, our plumbers, our HVAC folks all pitched in over the summer to make this a really great classroom space. As you know, we changed the policy on the cell phone, or the procedure, I should say, on the cell phones, and we have installed storage cabinets in all the classrooms, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's going really well. The school year started off very well for us, really one of the best starts we've had in a long time. I contribute that to a lot of the work that was done in the summer from our administrative team, our department heads, our guidance counselors, our custodians. It was really a team effort, and we had a great start. Last week, we had a chance to meet each grade level on the first 2 days of school, and to reiterate the cell phone policy, but also talk about many different procedures. In regards to the cell phone policy, it's really premature. It's kind of like, I know I have a lot of coaches up there, it's like winning your first game. We have a long season to go. We're not going to celebrate anything, but we're going to continue on this path, and we really feel like it's going well so far, but we need to continue on that path for all 180 days, not just the first 5. As you know, fall sports are underway with the first games occurring this week. Football is tomorrow, field hockey is tomorrow as well, and I believe soccer is starting up the end of this week as well. So all of the teams have games. Clubs and activities began this week for all of our clubs, and some of them are waiting till next week to get started. I know many of you had a chance to see our Canva first run, and we're pretty excited about that format and making sure we get that out to the public in regards to events, procedures, et cetera. And our open house is next Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m., and we are posting our weekly events online as well. Certainly entertain any questions you may have.
April?
Your enrollment numbers for this year.
Our enrollment's, it's moving, it's about 540 right now, and that number in another week will change, probably for the positive. We have, it's kind of funny, and I joke about it, but it's crazy. Every year when the buses start rolling, people come knocking on the door. We're there all summer long, and we have people on board to get the process started throughout the summer. But a lot of people just wait until school starts to get their kids enrolled, which is tough because then they're coming in, 4, 5, 6 days later, when everyone else has been in session for almost 2 weeks.
I did mention the newsletter last week. It was very visually appealing, easy to read, and so nice job on that.
We have a great team putting that together. Thank you.
And in terms of cell phones, I did share with the committee earlier today an article about phones being banned in Iowa. I know you're not at the ban stage, and I get that, but they are banned from classroom use.
Correct.
During class time. So I would say stay the course, and
Yes.
it will benefit
Right.
the learning in their building.
We can see it already. Like I said, we're not going to celebrate anything yet, but we can see it already just in our walkthroughs and, walking the hallways when class is in session. It's the kids are much more focused. Hopefully, we see some of those positive effects that the school in Iowa has seen in regards to, just behaviors.
Great. And yet, Jeff, and then Brennan?
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, how do the students feel about, are they being receptive to it? Are you getting a lot of,
I think
I
they're...
know it's early, it's only a couple of days.
Right. Well, they're not excited about it, but they understand why it's there in place. Some kids feel it's a relief because, everyone's putting it in their cabinet. I think if they had their druthers, they'd rather have it in their pocket and have it available to them. But, we've gone through, we've had meetings with, this isn't just something we slapped on them in late August and said, here you go. We talked about it last year for probably 4 or 5 months with them. We sent out feedback to parents, to the students, and we've had, meetings on, this is what we're looking at, getting feedback. The committee met with them a couple of times as well. So they've been involved. It's really easy for the 8th graders. There's no transition there. It's the 9th through 12th. It's really the juniors and seniors that I think they struggle. All the students struggle with it, but the juniors and seniors are not the ones traditionally that abuse the privilege. They have it figured out. They're kind of on their path where it's there, but it's not a distraction. I think in many cases it was the underclassmen that just couldn't handle it. Again, I'm kind of stereotyping there, but.
Yeah, no, but,
Those are my observations.
good.
You all set?
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you for the responses to the parents.
Parent, right?
I guess, were there 2 or 1?
Just one that I'm aware of.
Anyway, and your answer was perfect. She should have been quite happy.
I didn't get a call, so
That's a
thumbs up on. I'm certainly more than willing to entertain a phone call. As a parent myself, I get it.
But given what other school districts are trying, this is, it's essentially an incentive to the kids to make it work because it could get worse.
And that's how we preached it at the beginning, because I'm getting communications from DESE. They want to know how this is working because they want to implement something, and if this doesn't work...
You mean statewide?
Statewide. Oh, there's a reason why this is a pilot and why we receive grant funding. They want to do something statewide, and if this works, and we're not the only school. I think there's like 40 schools that received the grant. So they're asking for feedback because if this doesn't work, and the kids know it, there'll be no cell phones eventually down the road in any school that's a public school in the state of Massachusetts. So if this works, this would be a great model because the students still have access to the phone in between classes. They have it in the lunchroom. And there's things that come up that, it's nice. I have a 15-year-old, and sometimes things change. He's on the golf team, so if it's raining out, all of a sudden it's like, okay, so you're coming home on the bus. Those type of communications are valid. Is it time sensitive? No. He can answer that email during lunchtime. So I see the validity in being able to have those communication, but I also remember when I started in that school, when cell phones were not around. And you survived all right, Brennan.
No problem.
You didn't have a cell phone.
The biggest thing back then was pagers.
I remember, and hats.
But
Don't
even-
forget the
yeah,
hats, too.
pagers and
Pages and
hats.
hats.
We had to do push-ups.
That was our biggest fight when we started, I remember.
But even having the pager device and it was the same arguments. What if I need to get in touch with my student or whatever, and you wait till the end of the day.
Right.
Isn't payphones, that's what we had.
Is it fair to say that thanks to system-wide, district-wide policies, it's basically impossible to abuse a Chromebook?
To abuse a Chromebook?
Meaning to use it inappropriately during class?
I think there's, these kids are pretty slick. They will find a way.
Take away a device, they'll look for another way to do the same thing, and that's my concern.
Right, and the issue is,
She's nodding her head.
yeah, so. They are. But I think a diligent teacher who works the classroom, uses our new Aristotle K-12 program, they're on top of it. And it's the ones that don't, that the kids can take advantage of. But we have ways to deal with that, but it's never going to be perfect. But we're obviously, we're trending in that direction, but we're never going to be 100% perfect with that.
Yeah. Finally, the incident in Georgia.
Yes.
Do you feel comfortable that we've done everything we can to minimize, not prevent, but to minimize it happening in Massachusetts? Or in Wareham, anyway?
I think, you always plan for the worst and, hope you never have to deal with it. And the way...
Be very specific. One of the things that drives my wife crazy too, and she's right, and that is the fact that this 14-year-old was on the radar of the authorities, and it still happened. Do you feel constrained by the law? Do you have people you're worried about?
No, I think you have policies and procedures that are in place. We have, I believe, great security, and again, I'm just speaking for the high school. I don't want to speak for any other school, and I think they're all the same, but, I think we all have the same policies and procedures, but every school is designed a little differently. We're very blessed at the high school. It's pretty much a straight line design. It's very easy to supervise. There's not a lot of nooks and crannies. There's not a lot of exterior doors that you have to really worry about that aren't on that main hallway. We do the drills, we do the practices, we have brought in people to see how far they can get into the school. We've done all kinds of different things to I certainly don't want to disclose everything here, but we've done a lot of things and we have a lot of procedures in place. But I don't think you can ever rest on your laurels and just say, oh, okay, we're in a good place. We have a meeting, ironically, we scheduled over the summer a meeting with the 8th graders to go over our ALICE procedure. I went and got certified as an ALICE trainer so that we could continue on with the ALICE program. Officer Baptiste is very involved. I know Dr. DeAndrea had school safety as a goal. We've got the new Navigate 360 system, which they had a similar system that they utilize, and it was mentioned in many of the articles. So I think we have everything in place. That, certainly, Kyle's got a tough job being between 3 schools on 3 different locations.
Just one specific, there's no resource constraint on you being safer. In other words, if you had X number of dollars more to invest, could you make the school safer?
We could always make it safer, but...
How would you do it?
How would we... Well, there's different systems you can put in place in the school, different detection systems you can put in place. There's a lot of different things you can do, but, you could have the safest school in the world, And if a kid wants to get in or an adult wants to get in, they're going to get in. It's, money doesn't solve everything.
Oh, I understand
It's
that.
really, for us, it's about visibility in the school, visibility in the hallways, having a great protocol, practicing the protocol. And as you know, we preach to the students, if you see something, say something, because how many of these type of situations were thwarted by students speaking up? And you'll never really read about them. But I would argue probably 3 or 4 times as many are stopped because students communicate, parents communicate, citizens communicate. That's the key is, if you see something, say something, even if it's a wild goose chase.
Yeah.
And we get those, but we vet them out and we spend the time to make sure that we've done our due diligence to make sure it's not a concern. And we would certainly, appreciate that. And I think our students and our parents are vigilant in that respect, and we get, they come and see us, and, it's great, like I said, having a resource officer in the school. Now he's got the dog. Everyone wants to come up to him, so he's got...
Dogs in place?
Oh, yes. And, and he's very approachable, and it's easy for kids to have conversations. It's always been easy to have conversations with him, but now with the dog, it's even easier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
April?
I think we're lucky too to live in an area, in a district especially, that has put such a priority on the kids' social and emotional well-being, and we have such an inclusive community on every level, and I think that really sets Wareham apart, where you don't hear as much. I mean, there's always going to be, you get a certain age where you're going to have kids just being kids, testing boundaries, testing limits, trying to fit in, trying to be cool. I mean, you had, if you look at even the movie Grease, you had the jocks and the nerds, and the way that they classify how life, the little communities of every school person's experience. But I think that being in the community that we're in, and then the state that we're in, with the funding and the priority on mental health awareness, whereas in a lot of other parts of the country that has been taken away or isn't prioritized, and other rights and other things tend to be their priority. I think we're very lucky that we do have that awareness, and that we are in a place that does allow for us to have social workers in school and safe places, school councils and things like that, where the students have, we do have such a student-voiced district. I think that is a benefit to us overall, to help with, overall safety in every grade level.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we're very blessed to have just great collaboration with the Wareham Police Department, Wareham Fire, EMS. No matter what the situation is, they're always there for us. And, just today, we had one of the sergeants was parked on school grounds, so it was, that was a great image for people to see coming in. Every day, the patrol, they're doing walkthroughs in the schools and making sure they're familiar with the school, making sure they're visible. Fire department will come in during lockdowns and help us out. So it's just, we're blessed. And I've done some presentations at the state level, and I hear from other schools, and specific to safety, and the other schools don't have this great collaboration. You kind of take it for granted a little bit because it's the way it's always been. We've always worked so well together with all the municipalities, and that's not the case in every town. So we are blessed on that front.
On that note, we thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Palladino.
Appreciate it.
And Tracy, you're up.
Good evening.
Hello.
We have 435 students at Wareham Middle School. We, too, I heard Mr. Palladino say he had a great start. We had a really great start, and I do think it's the collaboration with everyone getting ready for the year. I also just think we're in an educational mode. I think we're a couple years past COVID, and I think there's a newfound focus on education. As Dr. Chandler said, open house was standing room only. We couldn't fit everyone in the parking lot and in the classrooms, and so it was really, really nice to see. I'd like to thank our custodians, our secretary, the tech department, who just worked so hard this summer. In the summer, people say, you work in the summer? Well, yeah, I work in the summer. But there's a lot of people there that really helped to get this school year ready. So we have had a fantastic start at the middle school. We had assemblies today with 2 grades. We'll have an assembly with 6th grade tomorrow, really on the expectations of the middle school and consequences if we don't follow those expectations and procedures that we've put in place to ensure safety, but also to ensure that the maximum teaching and learning take place. Great news for us is the roof project's almost done. We are finishing the auditorium area. We're on to the band room tomorrow, and then they'll be doing the area of the roof that is where the gym is. So we're very excited about that. It's really worked out well. We also added more cameras to the middle school, inside and outside, so that was a great accomplishment that happened this summer as well, and we are very proud of that. So, very excited. We're a week in. The kids are very, very tired if you see them. I think getting up and in school for 7:30. Hopefully we can survive 5 days next week. Questions, concerns?
Any questions from Ms. Cote?
No.
Wow, you win the prize.
No, we're good. Thank you.
All right, have a
Thank
good
you very
night.
much. All right, we did number 6 already, so we're going on to the superintendent's report.
Yeah, you've seen the superintendent's newsletter, and I just have a request for an approval of the bill and payroll warrants, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 400.
I didn't even realize Joyce left.
Is that it, Dr.
That's
Deidre?
it. That's all I have.
Wow. Okay. Any other business? Seeing none, we have a motion to adjourn. Is this seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 400. The meeting is adjourned. See everyone September 19th. Thank you.